Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the TCM Security live stream. Andrew Bellini, aka Digital Andrew, is here this time. That's me streaming. So we'll start today's stream with an FAQ like we usually do. Feel free to ask me anything cybersecurity related, non-cybersecurity related, and I'll do my best to answer it. And then what we're going to be doing later on today, something that I'm really passionate about, which is exploit development. So we'll be picking up where we left off in the last one with Overflow Me, which is the guides that I have written to teach about the basics of exploit development. And today's going to be a fun one because we're actually going to be doing writing shell codes to actually get a shell and write a proper exploit. So not just jumping around in the program. You may see the banner coming up down below here. So I do have an announcement to make. The Priv-S courses at TCM, so that's both the Windows and Linux Priv-S courses, are retiring. So two things here. One, if you have a subscription to the Academy, like the All Access Pass, and you want to take them or you are taking them, then make sure to get on that and take them there before they retire, which is on May 6th or 7th, I believe. And then also, if you do want to pick those courses up, as with when we retire all of our courses, you are able to pick them up to purchase with lifetime access. So it's like a retirement sale. There won't be any more updates or anything to them, but if you do want that content, you can pick them up. So you can get one of them for $60, or you can bundle them both together for $99. So check that out if you are interested. And then let's see, what do we got here for when? Oh, I got a good one here from Eru. Let's just kick off with this one. When am I going to sneak in a business expense for laser-induced fault injection? Oh man, that would be so cool because I always wanted one of those because of the Austin Powers where he's like freaking lasers, and then to have a laser. But I don't know, that would be super cool. I know some of your colleagues, Eru, are working on some pretty cool fault injection stuff, not with lasers, but with electromagnetic frequencies. So that would be really cool if I was able to get a laser one. Who else do we have in chat here today? Looks like John got first, so congratulations on that, John Rogers. Hi to Zen Carter here. We got Malware Cube in the stream here today, Andrew Prince. I know he has been extremely busy working on the next SOC course. Another week, another stream. Okay. Please, about SSH vulnerabilities. Do you have any specific ones you're asking about, or just like in general? I don't know. I usually stay pretty up to date on like vulnerabilities that are coming out, but I don't know if there is a new one that I missed. But if you want to give me a little bit more details about what you're curious about there, I can try and answer it. What's the best way to study for the cert? Took the Windows and Linux privilege escalation courses, and now I'm doing some try hack me rooms. So for pen testing, I mean, I'm not specifically just for that cert, but we do have a roadmap to be an ethical hacker in 2025, YouTube video and blog. So I would expect that the resources in there to be very good. So I would recommend checking out that video or blog. Maybe Britt can link it in the comments here. Sad to see those courses go. Honestly, they were very good courses. I know Heath put a lot of work into creating them, and I took them both myself quite a long time ago, and they were really good courses. So hopefully in the future, at some point, we're going to replace them with something that's a little bit better. But for now, I do know that they are being retired. One of the reasons is because they required students to make additional purchases on platforms outside of our our platform, so that is one of the reasons. But yeah, they are really good courses. So I mean, if you want to take them still, then make sure to take advantage of the retirement sale. Are they being replaced, the PrivEsk courses? At some point, yes, I believe there's plans to be content for PrivEsk. They're not immediately being replaced, but at some point, that is the plan. You'll never create privilege escalation courses again, or they will not be eligible for buying. So, yeah, as I mentioned, at some point there probably will be. I don't know if there's a specific roadmap for that or not, but the way that our model works for courses right now is that they are on a subscription basis in the academy. So, sorry about that. So, when we retire them, though, we usually do give the option to buy them lifetime if you want to grab them and have access to them. So yeah, so this is like the one opportunity to do a lifetime buy, and then I don't know, it's like the Disney Vault, but they never come back out. They'll just be gone after this. So that's, yeah, we'll definitely be integrating it some into published courses as well. Yeah, it's not something that I'm specifically working on, so I don't know entirely what it will be, but yeah, there will be something with privilege escalation. What is the topic today? So right now we're gonna do some Q&A. So if you do have any questions for me, I am taking a look at the chat, just working my way through it right now. I'll do my best to answer. And then at about 12:30, we're gonna do some exploit development. So I have been writing this vulnerable program and like walkthrough. I don't know what to call it. It's like a program that I wrote that's vulnerable, but then there's also levels to it. And walkthrough, it's all in GitHub for free, called Overflow Me. So we didn't finish level 2 last time we were streaming, so we'll pick up there. We were writing we were learning how to write custom shellcode in the last one and remove bad characters from it. And now in today's lesson, we'll take a look at how to actually pull off a full stack smashing attack, which is like the most basic Stack Overflow attack you can do. And we'll use the shellcode that we wrote to craft an exploit, and we'll figure out how to do that. So that's what we're going to be doing today later on in about 20 minutes or so, depending on how many questions we get and how busy the chat is, but maybe less. Here is a very good one. Have you been able to find out if TCM certifications have helped people land jobs? Yes, 100%. I actually have a few people. Actually, I've had people frequently reach out to me for the help desk course, which is not even a certification. It's free on our free tier. And because of that, it has reached a lot of people. I know we're almost up to 60,000 people that are enrolled in that course, which is super cool. And I very frequently receive messages from people on LinkedIn that they took the course and it helped them land a job. So not even the certificate or certification, just that free course and the knowledge. Because, I mean, again, really one of the most important things if you're going to get an interview is what you know. And so you can take the course for free. And one of those stories, actually, Britt just dropped a link in chat here, which is a great one. One of the beta testers for the help desk course actually took the beta, like in beta. This was sometime last year, actually, almost a year ago now. Was doing a review for me, and then he like applied for this help desk job, and then finally got an interview. I guess they're slow on it, and it was just after he finished the beta, and they were so impressed with like his knowledge and everything he had done, building out all the labs and everything, because he had all fresh in his mind from just doing the course. They actually gave him a job like right on the interview. Like they just hired him on the spot right there. They're like, all right, you're hired. And he got a help desk job. So yeah, but I have heard from lots of other people as well, specifically with certifications. Yeah, people always ask me about certifications and, you know, what ones should I take? What value is it? And my personal opinion is that certifications should probably do, you know, two things. One of them is they just help you get past that, HR filter that we all know exists when you're having to go through the application as like not knowing anyone. So you don't have anyone in your network you can reach out. I mean, your only way to apply for the job is to go through the application process that they put forward, where you're up against potentially hundreds of thousands of other people. And when they get your resumes and applications, they'll look at the certifications you have. And if those check off the boxes they want, then maybe you'll move on. So sometimes you just need those. I mean, there's no guarantee that getting those certs are going to get you a job or an interview, but I mean, sometimes if you don't have them, that's just the unfortunate reality. So that's the one thing, is that, it has the industry recognition that it's going to help you get an interview. The second one is just that it forces you to learn the concepts or things that you want to know and to stay motivated, because then when you get into the interview, you can talk about those things that you know. And for example, if it is a practical exam, like all of the TCM security ones are, you can use that to help shore up where you may be missing actual on the job experience. So for example, maybe it's a pen testing job and they want to ask you about a pen test that you have done, and you're applying for a junior role, you haven't done one yet. Well, maybe if you've done the PMPT or the PJPT, you can say, well, I did actually do this simulated pen test. It was 5 days long, did all these things. I wrote up a pen test report at the end of it, and you can talk about all of those things. So that certification gives you that as well. So they should do one of those two things. And if they don't, I mean, they're probably not worth your time and money, in my opinion. Yeah. And also, like, nowadays, they're not going to guarantee you a job in today's market. There's just the unfortunate reality. So yeah, they're just one tool in many to help land a job. Currently trying to get my foot in Web3 security. Don't have a guided path. Hope in future to see something for Web3 security courses. Yeah, that's something, honestly, I don't know a whole lot about. Definitely interesting, though. I think Alex Olson is kicking around in the chat here, though, so maybe he's maybe he's seeing this, and might be something that he would work on. That would probably be him. You saw that Windows and Linux Privask is getting out of circulation. What about the PNPT? Yeah, so that is the topic of today of a lot of questions. So with regards to the PMPT, if you did purchase it previously when the PMPT came with all of the courses lifetime, then you'll have those. You bought them, so that's how it works. With lifetime, once if you're buying it now or like in the future, where now they come with 12 months then of access, then yeah, it's not going to be included in those. What I will say, though, is that everything that will be in the PNPT training that you're provided is what you need to pass it. So if you get it later on, all of the training that you're provided when you buy it is everything you need to pass it. So hopefully that answers your question there. Are there any good resources for learning how to attack SAP, super popular enterprise software that you don't like to use? I don't know. That's a good question. I've never personally attacked that myself. I mean, usually unless it's like, if for enterprise software, stuff like this, you're usually just looking for previous exploits that have been developed or vulnerabilities that are known. So trying to do banner grabbing, see what version of it is running, and then looking at that. So, but yeah, specifically, also, it's kind of tough for me to comment on like specific enterprise software and exploiting it on stream, just to make sure I'm being ethical. Do you have laptop recommendations that last at least 3 to 4 hours running on battery for pen testing or forensics? running on gaming laptops and looking for upgrades. Yeah, gaming laptops are not great for battery life because they're usually pretty power hungry. If your battery life is one of your main concerns, then I would potentially consider looking at some of the new Windows ARM based laptops. So unless you have software that's not going to work on an ARM based system, I would check those out if that's your concern, because those are sporting some very impressive battery life. I mean, 3 to 4 hours is not outside the realm, though, of like most laptops outside of like gaming ones, especially if you look for ones that have where you can put in a bigger battery. So I like getting ThinkPads. Like I've bought in quite a few cheap ThinkPads, and like they have good specs, so they're fine for pen testing. Like just get one with 16 gigs of RAM and an i5 or something like that, and an SSD, and that will be fine for pen testing. And then you can get all of those business ones. You can get batteries that are like extended and they kind of like stick out a little bit from the laptop. But I've had those that have lasted like 6 or 8 hours, so that's an option as well. Yes. So with regards to the TCM certs getting jobs, someone in the chat here, longtime supporter of TCM, Eero TCM certs got me my job for sure. Yes, and I have seen, I know where you work is frequently asking for those certs on job postings. Great question. How can I stay motivated when people who are much older in cybersecurity know much more? I think that's a good question. I mean, that should be inspiration that, like, if you're younger and people know more than you, then I mean, that's where you can get to and know that amount. And then just remember that everyone is on their own journey. So, I mean, you're not competing against, specifically being exactly what other people are. You're just trying to work to be yourself and be better than you were the previous day, and just keep making small increments. And then, I mean, also, if you're working with people that know more than you, that's a good thing. Like, you never want to be the smartest person in the room or like at your job. It's better to have people that are smarter than you so you can learn from them. So if you know people that are older than you and know more, then try and learn from them. Okay. Does TCM have courses for exploit development shellcoding? Not at the moment. So the one course that we do have, which is one that I released recently, is our Assembly 101 course. So this course I kind of actually created as a precursor to learn about reverse engineering, writing shellcode, exploit development, because you need to understand assembly. And I think it's easier to learn that like just straight up, not throwing in the other complicated stuff first. And that course does end with a section about memory safety and exploiting a Stack Overflow and writing shellcode, but it's not the focus of the course. That is like the last little bit of it's about 1/10 of the course, maybe, is that. And then, I mean, hopefully, and it's good to keep asking because that kind of helps drive what courses we choose to pick, is what people want to see. But yes, that it is something that personally I would like to create a course on. All right. Just looking through the chat now here. So if you got questions, drop them in. Zen is going to get the bundle. Want to sharpen your skills? I highly recommend it. They're really good courses. I have taken them both, and they are really good courses, especially the Windows one. I mean, the Linux one is good too, but like the Windows one just comes up so much for if you're doing pen testing to know how to escalate those privileges. I want to show this from the previous question, just for anyone that missed it, from Alex Olson. This cool place to learn about Web3. Ah, yes. Hamza says he was here first, but then he had to do something. Sure, sure, sure. This is a good question. I've heard that AI tools can now easily modify shellcode to evade security controls like antivirus or EDR solution. So I was actually just reading a book I put on my LinkedIn 2 days ago, and we did a short about some books I've been reading, and this one actually was talking about that. So if you have um, so this one was specifically talking about if you have AI based detections that are using AI models to determine if something is malware or malicious, then yes, there are methods that can, if they know the AI model that's being used, inject noise into the malware. Because remember, it's just a binary, right? Ones and zeros. Um, and there are modifications that can be done to that binary that doesn't actually impact how it runs at all. Um, but you can inject certain amounts of noise that will allow it to bypass some of these. So yes, um, it is definitely something that's happening and possible. And if you want to like learn about it, you can read research papers. So this is yeah, definitely a concern for AI tools being used. So and this is something that's for all AI tools. Specifically, this attack is called an evasion attack, where you're trying to evade an AI model's what it's supposed to do. And it's not just for malware; it could be for like image recognition, or detecting fraud or things like that. And this is where if you have access to the model, not specifically even like the training data, you can put thousands or even millions of inputs into it and figure out where there are gaps in the training that allow for misclassifications. So in the example of images, it could be even something as simple as like adding a few specific pixels to an image in one spot. And it's not necessarily specifically a flaw of like the model logic itself. It's in the training and the missing of the training data to find these gaps. And yeah, so it can be used to evade security controls, but also other things like facial recognition. Let's see here. Any more questions? Do companies ever reach out to have people red team AI generated code? I think I've talked with Alex Olson about this quite a bit recently, about how we both think that AppSec is going to be very popular, and it already is very in demand right now, but especially in the next few years, because that would be the like fixing up of red team of AI generated code. Um, so I don't know. I mean, it will probably get pen tested for sure, but I think um, the better approach to this would be to have AppSec and things like code review and code scanning and those kinds of more white box based assessments on AI generated code to make sure that it is safe, especially from all these low code or vibe coding of this. I think AppSec is probably going to be the way to go. Is there an archive of this live stream? Yes. Yep. We usually they're usually on our YouTube, at least for a while afterwards. So yeah, you can go on YouTube. And I should have mentioned this too. So if you missed the last I think this is the third time doing this. So if you missed any of these exploit developments before, I'm going to be doing these for a while. I guess maybe until I finish this, or people tell me they're bored of watching it. Yeah, you can go back and catch those. I just checked today; they're still up there as well. Okay, I'm going to take one more question here, and then we will hop over to the exploit development. How can I build a cybersecurity lab? I have about 3 laptops and a couple of Chromebooks and a Mac. So there is an excellent resource from someone named Benjamin Heater, who is a TCM Security community member. And he has this really good blog series about building out a home lab, actually using an old laptop and Proxmox, which is a hypervisor. So I would check that out. I posted on my LinkedIn. So if you go to my LinkedIn, I posted about on Friday. I linked to it. Actually, I've linked to it a few times because it's a really good resource. I started that. Like my current iteration of my home lab right now is built starting from that, and then I've just kept adding on to it. But yeah, I would go there. I mean, and you may be able to cluster them, or you might just need one extra laptop. So I think that's easier. Bored of this blasphemy. love to hear that. Okay, I know I said one last question, but I want to answer this one because it's a good question. What do you think is the future of memory corruption phones? Is it still viable to learn buffer overflows, heap overflows in 2025? I would say yes. So like we're starting out like fairly basic with what we're learning right now, because yeah, you got to start with the basics. So like the stuff we're learning about now, it won't be applicable specifically to stuff in the real world right now, because as you'll see, I'm going to talk about how we have a bunch of the preventions that are built into like basically everything operating system wise now turned off for this stuff to work. But I'm going to start putting them on and showing how to bypass it. And I actually wrote a blog about this on TCM Security, but it's still high up there on like the most exploited, like the top CWEs. If you look at it from MITRE, it's memory corruption has been on like the top, I think it's top 20 or 25 list since the inception of that list. Every year there's been memory corruption, and it still was last year. And if you look at like some of the big bad scary exploits recently, they have been related to memory corruption. So maybe not specifically always buffer overflow. Sometimes it's used after free, things like that. But when you think of like the stuff that people are attacking right now is like your firewalls or other hardware based tools. And, I'm not going to name any names, but there's been some of those that have had a lot of exploits recently. And a lot of that stuff is written like in low level codes like C, C++. And it's because of the value of finding an exploit in that there's still people finding them and rolling them out. And even though there's protections in place now with ASLR, stack canaries, non-executable stack, data execution prevention, there's still ways around that. People find ways and are still exploiting it. So yeah, it's definitely getting better though. It's not like the golden era where that was like the one big scary bug and everyone is, that's the one thing to look at. It's definitely becoming more niche, but it's still happening in 2025. Like, because of the way like the architecture works for like modern computers, it's always going to be potential. And I mean, we can talk about that more when we take a look at the code, which we're going to hop into now. So let's hop over there now. All right, cool. So if you want to follow along with me, let me unpin these chats here. And I'm going to get rid of this down at the bottom too, just so it's not over top of my terminal. Okay, so I'll quickly pop this up here. So if you do want to follow along, maybe Brick can drop this in the chat. You can just go and clone this repo and then follow along. And then what we're doing today, I'm going to update the repo with what we actually do today. So if you want to pull down and follow along, there is a Readme in it as well that you can go and follow along. So if you just want to copy all the commands, you are missing anything, then go ahead and copy that Readme. So let's kick it off here. I'm going to pull up the chat here just in case anyone's talking to me about this too. All righty. Where is this? Overflow me. Here we go. Relaunch up my terminal. So I got my ZSH. All right, perfect. So we're going to be working on level 2 today. So let's start actually with the README, and I will do a quick recap here of what we did previously in the last one in level 2, and then we'll pick up from there. Let's go to the README. Okay, so our challenge for the level 2 is to print out the message TCM rules. I mean, you can use whatever message you want. I just picked that one, but without modifying the source code. So again, if you want to follow along, you can just go through these instructions and copy and paste it. So I'm going to be running through it today. So there is the assembly code here in overflowme.s, and previously in level 1, we went through, read through this code, and we found there was a Stack Overflow vulnerability into this code because we're copying the user input into a variable that's created on the stack. So actually here, so we're allocating 512 bytes onto the stack, and then we're actually moving, or sorry, here's where we allocate the space onto the stack here, and then we're actually moving what we take in from standard in onto the stack, but we're not actually checking how much we're going to move in. So at that point, then we have a Stack Overflow because we can allow people to read in more than we're actually going to take in. I should let the chat choose a VS Code theme. Oh, I can't do anything that's light colored though. It burns my eyes. Okay, sorry, where was I? So we found this vulnerability. So essentially now, if we put an input that is more than 512, and then we get up past the preserved base pointer, we can get into the return address, and then we have control over the function. So in the other challenge, we were just taking a look at jumping to other code. So hijacking the return address and jumping to dead code in it. So now in this one, we're actually going to write our own, we wrote our own shellcode, and now we're going to be writing an exploit for it. So come back to README. So we got all the way through writing shellcode, extracting the shellcode out, removing bad characters, and testing the shellcode. And now we are at step 7, which we're going to craft an exploit. So what we're going to do now is what's called a stack smashing attack. And in a stack smashing attack, what we're going to do is we're going to write an input to this exploit where we're going to put the shellcode into the stack. So in that space in the stack is going to be our shellcode. And then we're going to put our return address that we're going to overwrite. So when this function is done and it goes back to return, it's going to look at the return address that was stored before we entered in. That's how it knows where to go back to. So we're going to overwrite that, but we're going to overwrite it back into the stack. And that way it's going to tell the instruction pointer to, go and run the code that we have put into the stack. And this is called a stack smashing attack. So let us now go and we're going to compile this and we'll run through, and I'm just going to hide this. So if anyone needs this, look through in the chat here. Let me just hide this so it's going to be out of the way. All righty. Okay, perfect. So the first thing we need to do is just to build this. So we're going to assemble it and then link it. So I did put make files for all of this. So we can go make overflow me. Perfect. And then let's run it now with GDB, and we can take a look at how we'll need to structure our exploits to get this working. So we can go GDB, and it is just / the name of the exploit here. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is I'm just going to actually run it without, putting an exploit or anything, and we'll just use it how it's supposed to be used. But what I want to do, take a look at, is the area of the stack, so we can grab an address for that. So I am going to add one breakpoint into the function, which is before the function return, so that we can just see the layout of the stack before that. So we'll go here, we'll go B, and it's going to be before _ function _ return. Perfect. And now we can hit run. And it gets us to, my buffer is open for input. Don't overflow me. So this is where we can just put something that we want. So I'll just say hi from Andrew. And then it prints that back. And now it's going to actually return back to the main function from this function we're in. So if we actually take a look here and we go x/ and we'll go 66xg. So what this is saying is examine the memory, and we'll grab 66 quad words displayed in hexadecimal, and we'll say up from the stack pointer. So here we've got all of the memory. So if we take a look here, we can see this is our stack. So these are the addresses in blue right here. And the reason that I want to do this is now we can see, like right here, this is pretty square in the middle of the stack going up from the stack pointer. So what I'm going to do is we'll just copy this here. I don't know, we'll go with A20, for example. I'll copy that so that we have it, because that now we have an idea of where the stack is to jump to. So let's quit out of here. And here also, interestingly, so this is the return address here, and then this is the base pointer, which makes sense because it's all the way up here. Okay, so let's quit out of here now. Quit. So now we need to make a way to craft this exploit. So what I've done is I've gone and written a Python script for this. So you'll frequently see Python scripts used for this to craft exploits, because it makes it easy just to write a string. So let's launch that open, and then I'll talk a little bit about what this is doing. So we already calculated this, but how much we essentially need to write in before the return address to actually overwrite it. So for us, it's the size of the stack, which is 512 bytes. Again, we saw that by reviewing the code, but I mean, there's other ways that we could figure this out through debugging or reverse engineering. But again, if we take a look, just jumping back to the code here, we can see here the amount of space that's being allocated. And then as a reminder, because we haven't specifically talked about this in this lesson, but what happens when we call a function is called the function prologue. So it's actually happening here. So when we call a function, what it's going to do is push the base pointer on top of the stack. So the reason that it does this is to preserve the caller's base pointer. And then what it's going to do is move our base pointer to be where the stack pointer is. So essentially, we're just like moving the stack for the function, which is called the call stack, on top of the previous stack so that when it returns back from this function back to the calling function, it doesn't get messed up. So here we have 8 bytes. And then what happens before the function prologue? So when we have something like a call, so we come down here into the main function, we have our call here. So when this call gets run, or when this call gets executed, what it's going to do is it's actually going to push onto the stack the return address of what's next. So that's how the fundamentally, like in how our processors are laid out now, fundamentally how it's going to return back and know where to keep going in this code. This is where that fundamental like issue comes into play, is that in the memory somewhere, above the stack is where the next instruction is going to be executed. So there's lots of protections in place, right, to try and stop that from being written to or accessed or jump to code that it shouldn't. But like at the core of how processors work, like modern processors right now, it always, there's no way around that. So because of that, then in ours, with our exploit, if we overwrite the size of the stack plus 8, which is the caller's base pointer, if we write anything past that, it's going to go to the space in memory where the return address is. So when the program returns, so if we actually go back to here to overflow me, so when we come here and we call return, essentially what this is doing is it goes and looks and grabs the address off of the stack, above the stack that was written, and it jumps to that. So it puts it in the instruction pointer. So that's essentially, in a stack smashing attack and stack overflows, how we're going to impact this. Because once you have control over the instruction pointer, then at that point, now you have control over what the program is going to do. All right, so in our code here, so what we've done is I have just added a comment. So the return address we want. So now our return address is going to jump into the stack. Then I have the shellcode. So this is what we wrote in the last lesson. So if you missed that one, just go back and watch the recording. We wrote the shellcode starting from assembly and then ripped out the relevant actual opcodes to run this. The next two parts that we have are the padding and what are called NOPs, or a NOP sled. So the reason for that is if we wanted to just jump specifically to our shellcode, we need to hit the very, very first operation, or like the very start of that, right? If we jump like anywhere in the middle of it, it's even just like 1 or 2 bytes ahead, it's either going to get instruction that it doesn't understand, an opcode that doesn't understand, or we're going to miss parts of that are doing the integral things that's set up for our exploit to run. So we need to make sure we point like exactly to the start of it. So this puts us into somewhat of a needle in a haystack scenario where we'll need to have our shellcode end up exactly starting at this return address and then hit this return address exactly. So one way to get around that in a stack smashing attack is with what's called a NOP sled. So NOP is no operation. Essentially, this is an opcode or instruction that just tells the processor, don't do anything. Like when you see this, just like, increment your clock, increment everything. Don't change anything, and just go to the next instruction. So what we're going to try and do then is we're going to try and fill most of the stack up with these NOPs. And then directly after the no operations, we'll put our shellcode. So this is why it's called a sled too, a NOP sled. So then if we jump to anywhere in that NOP sled, we give ourselves the biggest target we can. As long as we hit somewhere in there, it's just going to go NOP, 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 like running through them until it gets to our shellcode, which is directly after. And then we guarantee that we hit the start of it. So we also need some padding as well. So you'll notice we have this length of padding here, and I'm just using A's for padding. Again, you could be using anything you want, but we can't have our shellcodes be the last thing in our exploit string, because remember, before we actually get to the return here, you'll see that it's actually going to pop off some parts of what's in the stack. So if part of our shellcode is in there, then it's going to get moved off, and there could be other things that are getting moved off as well by the program. So the padding will help us then to stop from our shellcode being overwritten. Let me just hide this chat here. Okay. Okay, so that's what the padding does. So let's go back to the exploit here. So then we're going to craft our string here by putting all of those together. So it'll start with the NOPs, then we'll have our shellcode, then we'll have our padding, and then very importantly, then we have the return address, which right now is going to jump to DA20, which is where we just saw in the stack. So now we can run this. So again, to create the string, we'll go Python 3, and we'll go exploits.py. And I'm just going to put the output into a file called exploit. So if you're doing it like this, also you don't want to put like file descriptors or anything like that. You just want this to be raw bytes. Perfect. So like now, if you cat this, for example, it's going to be mostly unreadable because it's a bunch of characters that can't be displayed, like the no ops. You can see here we've got all the A's now, though. So let's clear this away now. And now we'll run this with GDB, and we can actually poke around at the memory and see what's happening here. So we'll go gdb./overflow me. And I'm going to add a breakpoint here that's before function return. And then now we can run this. So if we go R, that's to run it, but we can pass in through standard in that exploit file. Okay, perfect. So let me just actually quickly move my big head here so it's not in the way of this. Myself maybe here. There we go. It's a little bit easier to see. So remember, it's going to print back whatever we put. So, I mean, we put in all this stuff here. So it did print TCM rules, but that's just because this is part of our exploit string that's being picked up. But at this point, we still don't have control or have had it do anything because we're going to return. So now at this point, we're going to try and return. And here's, I mean, the address is not displayable. But what we can do before we do that is let's take a look now at the stack layout. So we'll do the same thing again here. So we're going to go x/66 xg. I'm actually going to make this bigger so we can see all of it here. And we'll take a look at the stack pointer here. Perfect. Okay, so here is our return address right here at the end. And then if we take a look up here, we got DA20 right here. So that's going to land us right into the NOP sled. And then here is the actual start of our shellcode right here, which is exactly how we want to see this. So what we're going to do now, though, is we can just run or continue with this now. So it should return and work for us. So we'll go see here to continue. And you'll notice it actually did not print anything for us. It didn't work. And we got a SEG fault. So I specifically did this so that we can learn about how there are some preventions and what we're going to bypass in the next level of this. So when you get a SEG fault, usually that means two things. One, the memory address that is trying to access doesn't exist. It's a bad memory address. Or alternatively, you don't have permission to access that memory address. And for us, that specifically is the case because this is in the stack. And by default now on modern operating systems, and when you're compiling or linking, it sets the stack as being not executable. So it's either referred to sometimes as NX or DEP, which is data execution prevention. So essentially what we're trying to do in a Stack Overflow is put in characters or essentially bits that are the program is supposed to interpret as data, right? And this one, it's supposed to be a string that it prints back. And then we try and trick the program into saying, this is actually not data. Instead, this is instructions. Because remember, at the core of computer science and low level, everything is ones and zeros. And inside of that memory, it could be an instruction or a data. It's really only just what we tell the computer it is, or the computer has marked and knows. So in this example, we've already said, hey, the stack is always data. So if someone tries to tell you that it's not, like you get an input or something happens, don't execute that. It's not an instruction. So that's what's happening in this example. And what we can do actually is we can take a look at how that works actually. So let's just quit out of here. And I'll clear this away here. And then there's actually some ways that you can check the permissions for the memory itself. So I'll just quickly show how to do that in case you are curious. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to just run overflow me regularly here. And then I'm just going to let it hang there. And then we'll open up a new terminal here. And then in this terminal now, we can actually just go and find the process ID. So we'll go ps augs grep overflow me. Perfect. So I've got one here and the PID is right here for it. So we'll grab this, copy that. And then it is sudo cat, and I wrote this down because I always forget where this is. Proc process ID maps. Perfect. And then if you actually take a look here, we can see the different areas here. So we have the stack, for example. So this is, so what we're taking a look here, by the way, is the memory map for this. And so here we have the stack and the addresses for it. And then this is like Linux file permissions as well. So you notice we have read write, but we don't have executable. So for example, here we have executable, but we don't have write. So this is where the code's supposed to be. And because of this, that's why we cannot actually go and execute that. So in the next level, we'll take a look at how to bypass this by using return-oriented programming. But for this lesson, just to get this working, I'll show how we can disable it and how this one works. And then, yeah, we're building up towards bypassing these. So this is that one prevention right here. So let's clear this away. And then what I need to do is actually go into the make file here, and then where we link it here. So this is where it gets assembled from assembly code. So this would all happen, behind the scenes with C, but since we're starting with assembly, we're going to assemble it, and then we obviously won't need to compile C code into it. We're just starting with the assembly, but then I still am using GCC to link it. So there is a flag or an option we can throw in here, which is -z, and it's going to be exec stack, which is saying, okay, overwrite that and don't mark this as executable. So we'll save this here. Perfect. Now, if we go ahead and make this again, so we'll go make, actually, yeah, let's go make overflow me. No, let's go back here. We'll go back to this one. We'll end this one. Okay, perfect. So now what we're going to need to do, though, is since we re-linked this and changed something, most likely the memory locations are going to have changed. So we'll go gdb./overflow me, and we'll just really quickly check those because I bet you it's going to be different than that DA20. Add a break before _function return. Perfect. So now let's just run it here. Test. We'll run the exact same commands we've been here. 66xg $RSP. Perfect. And then, yeah, so DA20 Looks like it should work for us. So let's just exit this again. Yeah. So now let's try and run it again with our exploit here. So we'll go gdb / overflow me. B before _ function call. Okay, so now we can take a look again at the stack. And looks like we got something wrong with our exploit. So bear with me. What did we do wrong here? Can see me troubleshoot this in real life here to see what I've got wrong here with our exploit. Wait, when did I make this break here? So we've got the exploit coming in. Let me just trying to see what I'm missing here. What have I done wrong? Don't have a return address. Let's get out of here. Make sure the exploit is working properly. So let's go exploit. Me before turn. Okay. I know exactly what I did wrong. I put the wrong breakpoint last time, so we were not at this point before the stack. So my bad there. All right, so now we should be able to go x/66xg here, RSP. Perfect. So now I've got DA20 here, which is right in our NOP sled. And we've got our shellcode. Perfect. So if we just step through here now, yeah. So just hit C. Perfect. And it prints out TCM rules for us. And then we get a SEG fault because now at this point, we didn't put anything in our shellcode to exit. But I mean, if we wanted to, we could add that into our shellcode to just call the syscall for exits and then to go ahead and exit that. So anyway, the mistake that I made, which is a silly mistake, is I think I went B before underscore function call instead of function return previously when I was doing this. So that's why I was looking at the stack in the wrong spot. But I guess you get to see that this is actually recorded live and I'm working through this in real time. So that's where I'm going to end here. So this wraps up level 2. I'm going to put all this stuff that I did here as well into the GitHub for this. So if you want to try this on your own, like in the Readme, for example, you can get like all of the codes, everything to run, all of the descriptions. There is even like pictures of the stack layout and everything if you want to do that. So go ahead and check that out. What I'm going to do now, though, is I'll hop back out of this and I'll check the chat because I'm sure there's been a lot of questions here. And then if you do have any more questions, please feel free to ask them now. Let me switch over my OBS here to just my face. Perfect. Okay, let's go through some of these questions here. Did you read about the new Apple AirPlay RCE? I was just watching a video about it before the stream, so seemed very interesting. I was watching a video from Low Level on YouTube. I don't know if you follow him or not, but I like his stuff, and he usually has breaking news about these kinds of things. So yeah, very interesting. So I would suggest go and check that out. All righty. I think you should let chat choose a VS Code theme for it. Next time I'll do that. I'll let the chat choose whatever theme they want. So if you want to come back in 3 weeks and start researching and find the most unhinged VS Code theme extension, as long as I can read it and it's like not, and I can do it on stream, then I'll run with that extension. Okay. Is this where in the C program wasn't told to crash during this overflow condition? So I can show where that is quickly here. Let me just hop back over to answer this. So if we actually go back to the source code here, I can show where that is. Let me just find the source code here. Also, so if you want to read through the source code too, there is comments for every single line of code, basically what's happening. So it gives you a good idea. But here, this is what actually prints it out. And at this point here, we're doing a read syscall, which we're reading from standard in. So what this is setting up is to make a read syscall. And you'll see here, this is where we're telling the operating system when we do this read syscall, where do we put this? So this is -512 off of the base pointer, which is the space that we've allocated on the stack. So if you're in like a C program and inside of a function, you create a local variable, what it's going to do is it's actually going to put that onto the stack. And the way that we do is we just move the stack pointer down to make space for it. Or there's also some space that you just have automatically called the red zone. But anyway, this one input to the syscall, what's put into RDX, is actually there to prevent buffer overflows from happening. But we need to explicitly tell the read syscall how many bytes will allow it to read in, because it doesn't know the size of the buffer. So in this one, like I have intentionally programmed this improperly in assembly, where I'm going to allow 1023 bytes to come in, but we only have 512 on the stack allocated. So this is where in the program this vulnerability actually happens, of like the poor coding. And if this wasn't like in assembly, this could be something like using unsafe string functions in C. So all of the ones that don't specify the amount, or you specify the wrong amount. So you've got like your sprints, your gets, mem copies, like those functions, they can allow this to happen as well, just from starting from C code. So that is, hopefully that answers the question that you had. So let's hop back over now. I'll get rid of my face here, and we can I can keep answering questions here. Okay. Yes. So PwnDBG with Gef and with GDB with Gef does make things easier. I'm going to probably show those in further levels of it, but I did just want to keep like everything right at the start, like the most basic as we can. But yeah, those are really, really good tools to make this a little bit easier. Ah, yes, a question from Brits that I'm supposed to talk about this. So there is a new course out at TCM, the one that I'm working on right now, which is the Practical Security Fundamentals. So this is like a entry-level security course to teach you like all of the fundamental things you would need to know before you could even move on to some of the other what we would consider entry-level courses, like the SOC 101. So, this is going over like all the terminology you need to know, like what's an exploit, what's the difference between an exploit and vulnerability, what's malware, what's social engineering, what's phishing, what's cryptography, what's hashing algorithms, like, all of that important stuff you need to know. We're going to cover in this course. So right now there are 4 modules out. So the way that we decide to release this one is we are giving a sneak peek to Academy members. So if you have a subscription, you can watch them as I basically do them. So I did 4 in next Wednesday, 2 more are coming out, and they'll keep coming that way. And then in about a couple months, probably sometime in end of June or early July, it's going to be released the whole course on the free tier, 100% free, like the help desk course or the other ones. So yeah, if you are looking to learn about this stuff, or also if you know someone that does, then definitely give them a heads up to go and check that out. And then also I was supposed to mention that we have our popular Active Directory, hacking Active Directory and defending live, which is one of our most popular live courses that we have. It's one day. I got to remember what day it is here. May 30th. So I think this always sells out. I'm not entirely sure if there's been any of these where it doesn't sell out, especially because it's just the one day. So if you're interested in this, just giving a heads up that, yeah, you can start booking and buying that now. I think Britt can drop a link in the chat if you want to take a look and see where you can find it. But yeah, check that out if you're interested. Again, pretty much, I think it's always sold out. I have attended it once and it was very good. I really enjoyed it. I got to sit in on one of them and take it. And this is a really good one too, if like you have a training budget or something like that, because even if you're on the blue team, like most of the people that actually take this course are like blue team, sysadmin, security folks. So if you have a training budget, this is a good one and an easy one, in my opinion, to pitch if you are interested in taking it. And then also, like, if you want to take the PJP or PMPT, it is also excellent prep and training for it. So, wow, that's really cool that he was in the chat today. I don't know if he's still here or not, but I watch all of his videos. Big fan of low level. So if you do like this low level stuff, assembly, learning how to assembly, C programming, even does some IoT, firmware, reverse engineering, definitely should check out his channel. It used to be low level learning, but now I think he just goes by low level on YouTube. So definitely worth checking out. I would 100% recommend checking out his YouTube channel. I recommend it to anyone that's interested in this kind of low level stuff like me. All right. Not seeing too many more questions here, so we're a little bit over time. So, I mean, I'll give it a minute or two. If anyone has any questions and they are and they want to ask them, now's your chance. If not, we will be signing off shortly. So I'll give it a couple more. Give it one more minute here. Yes, I'll give it a minute while I mention that the PrivS course is going to be going away. So if you didn't hear already the news about that, the PrivS course is being retired. There's two of them: Windows privilege escalation and Linux privilege escalation. They are very excellent courses. I have taken them myself and I have recommended them to people before I started working at TCM. So I've told the story a few times. But if you don't know this about me, I was a TCM student long before I ever worked at TCM or had any business relationship with them or any courses. I took Heath's courses, starting with the PEH before the TCM Academy or anything, on Udemy. Took that course, and it was very instrumental in helping me transition from just like a pure engineering role into cybersecurity. It definitely helped me land my first cybersecurity job. I remember I had an interview where I had to teach actually about buffer overflows, and I had Heath had at that point there was a really good section about buffer overflows and stack overflows in the course, and that really helped me. And also understanding a bunch of the other Active Directory attacks really helped in my first cybersecurity interview. So anyway, after that, I took the privilege escalation courses, and I really like them, especially the Windows one. I mean, for the most part, like I used to do a lot of like hack the box and try hack me stuff, and they helped a lot, especially with the hack the boxes. But yeah, worth checking out. If you want to take, if you have Academy access, like go take them now because they're going to retire off there May 6th or 7th, I think. And if you want to buy them, we do this with all of our courses, like when they're going away as like a one last shot for people that want it. You can pick them up and then you'll have lifetime access to them. $60 for one, or you can grab both of them for $99. And just so like if you already have these courses, lifetime access, whether you bought them during a sale or just before we had the Academy subscription, or you bought the PMPT back when it came with lifetime access, you won't lose these. You'll still have lifetime access. So we're just offering them for sale for anyone that doesn't have that and wants them. Go ahead and grab them. That is my message on that. All right. And with that, I am going to wrap it up. So again, thank you very much for coming, everyone. Really appreciate everyone that was active in the chat. Hope that you learned something from this. Again, if you want to follow along, like I was going too fast, go check out the GitHub. It's linked in the chat multiple times. Give it a star. You can follow along with it. Other than that, I hope everyone has an excellent rest of their Wednesday, rest of the week, and we'll be back here same time next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So bye for now, everyone.